Welcome to Let's Connect. It is Tuesday, the 18th of October. Wow, time has surely flown this year, and we are so happy to be here with you on 88.5 Sufra FM. I want to say a special good night to Miss Claudia Prevo and also to Miss Sis. I was told that you were definitely missing my voice. I appreciate that. So I want to say a special good night to you. I want to say good night to all of you all over Sufra listening to us here on 88.5 Sufra FM. Let's Connect is back tonight with a very special show. I'm hoping that all of our listeners and those of you on our live chat are going to be very involved in the conversation. It's going to be a great one tonight. I want to say a good night to all those of you listening from out of Soufrière, all over St. Lucia and out of St. Lucia. We want to say good night to Fancy Miss Delta Bowens in St. Vincent. Always keeping it locked, always tuned in. Thank you so very much for your support. I want to say good night to all of you coming from our Honorable Emma Hippolyte, the district representative. She sends her greetings to you all as well. Tonight, my guest is Mr. Andre DeCaires, leader of the National Green Party, but representing tonight as a member of the St. Lucia Cannabis Task Force. We're going to be having a great discussion tonight. So once again, we're hoping that you all are going to be participating on our live chat so that we can get all our questions answered and get as much of the information out there as possible. So I want to say good night to you, Mr. DeCaires. Thank you so very much for coming on my program tonight. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad you're giving us the opportunity to expose stuff that people would like to know about this situation.
That's wonderful. Awesome. So we want to get the ball rolling. Like I said earlier, you're representing as a member of the St. Lucia Cannabis Task Force. But what exactly is cannabis? Can you give us a little bit of a background information, so to speak, as to what cannabis is?
Well, Cannabis sativa is that's a genus and species of a very valuable plant, a plant that has been used by mankind and for civilizations going back at least 4,000 years. In Chinese history and Chinese records, they recognize the plant, but the plant is also recognized in many other cultures. In the Indian culture, it's used in spiritual rituals. The Chinese, like I said, used it for medicine. In Africa, it moved from the Far East and Middle East, the upper Indus Valley, towards the West, moved to Africa, moved to the Middle East, and people were using it in Israel back in Jesus' time. A lot of the garments were made out of hemp. The fishing nets that the fishermen used in the Sea of Galilee were used out of hemp rope. It was used for feed as well, and obviously for medicine. It was used for medicine up to a day like today. It's still used for medicine. So it's a plant that it has thousands of uses, really. It's a very versatile plant. It's drought tolerant. So many civilizations used it, and it's only until the 1930s when some white capitalist guys in America saw that it was going to give them competition for their particular businesses. They demonized it and used black people and immigrants as the scapegoats. So the whole making it legal was actually a real racist move by these people. And even up to a date like today, black people in America are 10 times more likely to be in prison for cannabis, even though white people smoke it and use it just as much. So it's glaring that they use cannabis as a weapon to target black people in America. So it's really strange that here, where we are a black country, we have black policemen oppressing our own black people for a racist white law. And a lot of people don't know about that history. And it could have been the savior for many industries if at that point in the 1930s we went for cannabis rather than for petrochemicals. And now we have plastics just polluting the area. So the plant has been around, it's been used for many things. We down here, everybody knows it as ganja. people use it for smoking, and
Yeah, but there's such a rich history behind it that we're obviously unaware of.
yes,
Yeah, and even like you said with the plastics, I just saw something maybe last week stating that research is now showing that microplastics are being found in even breast milk. That it's like our new lead paint.
yes,
Like it's like going to be the next lead paint situation. That's how bad plastics are going to be. And when you say that hemp is such a product that where you can use it for fishing nets, you can use it for even for feed for animals and all these. There's so many uses for this plant, and yet still we don't seem to know what to do with it. And like you say, even our police officers are arresting persons for use of cannabis or destroying all their crops, and we wonder why we're fighting down something that is natural, right?
yes. And especially, I mean, if you look at our history as black people, we came over on the slave ships to work in sugarcane plantations. Our ancestors worked for more than 200 years in sugarcane plantations, making rum and sugar for the slave master. And then when we evolved to this state, our choice of substance to relax us ends up being the very substance that our ancestors were enslaved for. And I mean, we talk about reparations and slavery, but are we really thinking by our behavior? How can we embrace rum when our ancestors died in sugarcane plantations generation after generation to produce rum for the slave master? And that's the substance.
That's our go-to.
That's the substance we embrace. So imagine our ancestors looking down. They must be turning in their graves and say, but we were enslaved to produce this product, and you all elevating it to that level that it's part of our culture. Having said that, we are here. We are Bacchanal, we are Carnival, we are Caribbean people. So we drink rum, we wine, we get on bad. This is who we are. This is our culture, Calypso, Soca. You know, so I'm not going to be against anybody for drinking rum, but let's level the playing field.
Right.
You know, don't demonize us because we're using herb, because you're all using rum. Actually, alcohol kills about 3 million people every year around the world. And ganja doesn't kill.
Yeah, I was about to ask you how many people does ganja kill?
Exactly.
How many people does marijuana kill?
If we say it kills 100, 3 million to 100, this isn't a trick question. Which is the more dangerous substance?
Right.
It's 3 million to 100. Obviously, alcohol is more dangerous. Yet, in society, we use images of sex and prestige and glamour to encourage people to consume alcohol.
Yep.
And while we're locking up somebody for flowers in their pocket. So there's real disconnect here, and we have to level the playing field.
That's true. I agree with that. You said flowers in your pocket. When you say flowers, that's because that's the part of the plant that is typically used for smoking. But there are persons who don't even know what part of the plant is used anyway.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So it's like we don't even know the basics sometimes of what it is about the plant, and yet still we demonize it so much.
Yes. I've actually, you know, I had somebody, I was growing some herb a few years ago, and I brought people who had never seen it before, and I said, look at it there, and they looked, they couldn't even see it because it was it's green just like any other plant. So I had to hold it and shake it and say, this is it. And they were so disappointed. I don't know what they thought they would see. They said, that's it? You know, because all the negative propaganda, you think that this thing is the devil's weed.
Right.
But it's just another plant like every other plant. And they were like astonished that, is this what we're making a fuss over? You know, so a lot of education has to take place for people to really accept and embrace the plant and its benefits.
Right. When I was growing up, I always used to just see the pictures of the leaf. So I had this image in my mind that the plant had these very large leaves that had that shape. So I never understood it. And I was always imagining like a big tree, like something like an oak tree, like something huge that was standing out, and it was just this big thing like poisonous or toxic. That was the image I always had in my mind. When I first saw the plant, I was like, I almost took it for a tomato plant.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
the leaves are so similar.
Very,
I was like, what is that? I was like, wait, that's not tomatoes?
Yeah.
I really honestly thought that's what it was for the longest time. And it's interesting to see that we demonize something in our brain so much
Yes.
without ever knowing any facts about it, without ever doing any research on it. And I think the first time I really understood that there was something different about it, there was a documentary I was watching about a little girl named Charlotte who was suffering with severe seizures, and she would have over 20 seizures a day. She could not even step outside because the sun would trigger her seizures. And then her family had to go to, I can't remember if it was Oregon or whatever state it was in the US. They had to literally move so that she could take part in a study where they would give her a certain amount of cannabis. And it treated when they explained the ability for them to go to the park for the first time, and I was like, wow, something we take as like just to step outside for this little girl. And I remember they bred a particular strain of cannabis called Charlotte's Web, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was probably one of those documentaries that really opened my eyes.
Sanjay Gupta.
Yeah,
That CNN documentary helped us out tremendously, because prior to that, we were swimming up a waterfall. You know, the cannabis movement, we had marches, we have been on the radio, TV, trying to educate people. The people just didn't want to hear.
right.
And when you see it from a reputable news organization, CNN, and Dr. Sanjay Gupta says this, all of a sudden people start to think, wait, hold on. Let's take a better look at this,
Right.
and realize it's not as bad as they made it out to be, you know. So it was good. That really helped us out.
Yeah, and I hope that now that there's so many other documentaries, because I've seen so many others since then, and there's cooking shows now, there's comedy shows, there's so many things that incorporates it into ways that makes it relatable, so you can understand it better. And I hope that someday we'll get to a point where it's more acceptable and persons will have more knowledge of it and they'll be able to do more with it. That's one of the things I really hope, that we can get to that point where we'll be doing so many things with the cannabis plant. I think once I heard you speak about a pair of shoes made out of hemp.
Yes.
And I think you were talking about those shoes, how long they lasted compared to regular shoes.
Yes, hemp. So depending on which country you get it from, but you know, back in 1998 when we submitted our project proposal to the government, that's almost a quarter of a century ago, the coconut oil factory was still open, but we were getting negative propaganda that people were saying, when you take coconut oil, it's giving you cholesterol, it would kill you. And all of a sudden, the price for coconut oil dropped because of people's fear that it was harmful. And then we got out of the copra business and the cooking oil business. And just around that time, we suggested to the government, well, let's diversify and change the end product to a body care range. Soaps, shampoos, creams, conditioners, body oils, all these kinds of things. Because we already have the base, the coconut oil, but we grow hemp and we press the seeds and get cold press oil, and add that would be the magic ingredient. And then we could make a full line of these things that we could put in our hotel rooms. We could have a local line, we could have an export line. We had the whole thing down there. And I guess at the time, the people who were running the show, they didn't catch the vision. And now we're in Soufriere with an empty coconut factory for almost 20 years. And that used to hire 200 and something people. But our inability to think outside the box and grab onto something, if we had done that back then people would have realized the value of the cannabis plant. And it's not only for smoking and getting high, but that could have actually saved our coconut industry. You know, that way of thinking, a diversified approach to our agriculture, integrated approach. And that was shelved, and we never got to go ahead with the project. And it took 24 years to reach where we are now. And now the whole atmosphere has changed, because back then, proposing growing medical ganja or ganja for personal use, that would have been just thrown out categorically 24 years ago. So we brought in the hemp to show people that don't only think that cannabis is about ganja, it's about many other things. And look, we could have saved you, we could have come out with a brand new product that could have probably saved the coconut industry, and we would have been a much better place here.
Yeah, look, coconut oil did come back to be even more popular now.
More popular, and
yeah.
now we're out of it. So we missed the boat again.
Oh well,
Yeah,
I guess we were
that's
not
the
ready
story.
for that.
Yeah, the Caribbean, it's the
Yeah,
Caribbean. We just, we have
sad.
some leaders that lack vision.
Well, let's hope that this time around we're gonna do better. So, tell us about the upcoming activities that the Cannabis Task Force is heading. What can you tell us about?
Okay, well, it's a twofold kind of thing, because we were actually, I am actually part of a Transnational Institute, which is a Dutch organization that goes around the world and fights for the rights of indigenous cultivators of illicit plants. So they would go to Afghanistan and liaise with the poppy farmers, because the farmers are the hardest working and the lowest paid. They're peasants basically. Even though they're growing poppies, they don't really make the money. So too in the mountains of Colombia, the coca farmers, they're the ones, they don't make the money. It's the end product people. But yet they are the ones that are demonized by the police and targeted by the police and are basically abused if you're growing illicit plants. So in the Caribbean now, ganja is our illicit crop. So we formed a group called the Fair Trade Group, with members from most of the CARICOM countries, and as a sort of regional advocacy group to change the whole region, the way that we view cannabis in the region. And they're having a workshop here on Thursday, all day Thursday, and half day on Saturday, which is a closed door event. And our task force thought that we'd take the opportunity to have some side events. The first one being a symposium, a panel symposium, where we'll have speakers speaking for about 15 minutes on each of their particular expertise and areas of strength. And we'll be speaking to people who actually are growing ganja right now illegally, and who are actually selling ganja illegally, because these are the major stakeholders. So we have seen all the red flags in America, in Jamaica, in St. Vincent, where the major stakeholders, remember, these people have been using ganja to send their kids to school, to pay their bills, and they've been doing it for years. So we certainly can't create a legal ganja industry and have these people left behind.
Right.
They cannot be pushed aside. We have to bring these people in and actually improve their cultivation methods, improve their marketing approach. So, fellas not going to take a piece of foil and put it in a plastic bag and go in under a brick near a derelict house. That just wouldn't work in a new regime. So we have to bring these people in here, and we will speak to them, and we want feedback from all the participants prior to us completing the legislation. So if we have any amendments, if there are things issues that are brought up by the major stakeholders that we haven't considered, we would need to consider it and see if we have to amend stuff in the legislation to accommodate the treating the issue. So that symposium is specifically for that, and it's one. Obviously, we'll see how it goes, see what data collection that we could get, how many people, where they're growing, what they're growing, how they're growing, where they sell it, and so that we could ensure that these people are not forgotten and their businesses are improved by legalization.
Oh, that's great. So it's a cannabis symposium, which is like a panel discussion,
Right.
taking place on
Thursday the 20th.
Thursday, the 20th of October. And is it open to the general public, or is it something where restricted persons? How are we?
Well, it's not general public. We have gathered, over the years, the cannabis movement. We are in contact with many growers and many sellers. So it's really targeted for the people, the major stakeholders. I know that there would be people interested to hear what is going on. And we have a Zoom link
Right.
that so people who don't want to actually physically be there. But I think the minister, Madam Hippolyte, wanted personal contact with these people. So she would get, real feedback rather than over the media.
Yeah, over the internet connections.
So
yeah.
it is open, but we want just not somebody who has never been into ganja just come in to hear what's going on. We're looking at the major stakeholders.
In terms of the in-person. So we're asking for persons coming in person to the cannabis panel discussion on Thursday, that you definitely have an invested interest.
Yes,
in
you
the
either a
cannabis
grower
industry.
or a juggler.
You plan to
yeah.
be part of the industry in some form.
Because you are part of the industry now. Because there's a dark industry going on right now, an illicit industry that has been going on, and it's worth about $50 million a year. Because if we say 20%, right, so we're saying 80% of the people don't use cannabis at all. 20% spend $5 a day, right? So 20%, if we are 180,000, is like 36,000 people by $5 multiplied by 365 days. It's close to $50 million. So there's an industry going on right now in the country. It's not an industry, it goes under the inland revenue and the government, but it's keeping people alive and feeding families. It is a real industry, it's just illicit at the time. And we need to stop having it as illicit and bring it, regulate it, make sure that the product is safe, all the standards are adhered to, we protect the vulnerable, protect the kids, protect people who have genetic predisposition to mental disease. There are people who have asthma, COPD, allergies. So we really need to go and educate the users. There's ganja etiquette. You don't light up a spliff anywhere because you don't know if these people you're affecting the people negatively. And if we're so conscious, we're smoking weed and we're so conscious, you have to be conscious about other people and your behavior. So we have to actually train and teach people how to use it properly, where to use it. So it's a massive undertaking.
I agree. Those of you joining us, we're here with Mr. Andre DeCaires, who is representing the St. Lucia Cannabis Task Force. And we're also encouraging those of you listening and those of you on our live chat room to send in your questions if you have any, while we have an expert in-house who can answer any questions that you may have. So just a reminder, you're listening to 88.5 Super FM, and we're here on Let's Connect with Mr. Andre DeCaires of the St. Lucia Cannabis Task Force. Okay, so my next question is, do you think that enough is being done with cannabis in the region currently?
Definitely not. Definitely not. But it's a political will. Jamaica has been legal for 6 years. St. Vincent 2 years, St. Vincent 4 years, I think Antigua 3 years. And we're yet to export raw cannabis anywhere. I think St. Vincent exported 110 pounds to Germany one time. And they have farmers in St. Vincent that would take, 200 pounds to Martinique, every month. So, but that's illicit. what is going on with Jamaica and St. Vincent is they jumped the gun. We have international drug law treaties, and those treaties have been signed on by all 190 countries, 180 countries in the world, and they have people on the board like Russia and Iran, and they do not recognize personal use or sacramental use in these treaties. So initially we had in the legislation personal use and sacramental use, but we had to remove them because we have to appease these people.
Yeah, because they're the bigger powers that be.
The bigger powers
Right.
that be. But in Russia, look at how many Russians die from vodka, and that's their culture, vodka. And we are in the Caribbean. We have Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, we have Rastafari. Carnival is our culture, but so is reggae music and Rasta. You know, we have embraced Rastafari. They have a lot of Rastas in St. Lucia. Ganja is cultural. You go in many small communities. I don't want to name them because, you know, even though we're legal now, you name them and, you know, people still feel, oh God, you're naming us. It's a stigma.
Right.
But there are so many communities that ganja is burned freely out in the open. It's part of the culture for years. And these white people telling us, you know, we have to have a card, so I have to get a card to go on the block to ask to buy a 5-bag. You know, I'm self-medicating. I personally could speak. I've been using ganja responsibly for 46 years. That's a fairly good time to assess its dangers. And I've been smoking ganja with plenty people who have been smoking it as long as I am. And their grandfathers, grandparents, successful businessmen. Barack Obama smoked weed, Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. Many people burn ganja and they live productive lives.
Contributed very well to society.
Exactly. You know, so don't judge people. Vivian Richards burned ganja. Usain Bolt. You know, so they have people who've used it, and it's not the devil, the worst thing in the world that people have made it out to be. You know, alcohol is much more dangerous. Look, they stop advertising cigarettes. Why they can't stop advertising alcohol? Because of the whole capitalist system. We buy, it's money making, so okay, we know it's not good, but we'll still push it anyway.
I remember once for Professional Development Day, we went to the brewery for a tour, and an interesting statement was made, and I repeat it often because it stayed with me. They said that they could stop exporting to any other country within anywhere or they're currently exporting to, and sell strictly in St. Lucia and still make a profit. That's how much alcohol we consume as a country, that the brewery would still make a profit just selling to us alone.
Yep, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So
Yeah, we consume a lot of alcohol in St. Lucia too, you know. But again, you know, I'm not against people that consume alcohol. We, you know,
and it's your choice.
the majority at the time that you use substances like that, like cannabis, like alcohol, is to take the edge off our life. We all on the struggle, many people paycheck to paycheck. You don't know what's going on. And sometimes you just need a little glass of wine or 2 shots of strong rum or
Just to get you through
burn
to the
a
next
spliff.
Get you through the next level.
So that we could, you know, exactly like a beachy, you're using it like a crutch.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, when you look at America, they have a pill for everything, you know. You name it, they have a pill for
Anxiety,
it.
ADHD,
Yeah, all of that.
Everything.
You know?
Everything you can name under the sun.
Yeah.
There's something for it.
Yeah. I saw one the other day that was really crazy that you all have a pill for that. Something about leg aches, specific for your...
I think I saw that there's something called restless leg syndrome? No, not that one.
Yes, I think it's
Restless
something
leg
like that.
syndrome, yeah.
So you have a drug to stop your leg from being
I
restless.
remember back when they used to play commercials for these pills, and the list of side effects would be never ending. It's like, why are y'all taking things that just causing nausea, upset stomach, all sorts of things, and then
maybe even death.
even death.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
risk of death to
Yeah.
cure your anxiety. I was like, wow.
To cure anxiety, you know.
Or sometimes even your acne. Some of you taking something for acne and it could kill you.
Yeah. It's crazy, you know.
It's amazing the things we put in our bodies, and yet still we have to be literally trying to force people to take a vaccine, right?
Yeah.
It's a very strange world we live in.
Yeah, and for the rum and for the cannabis, it's your choice. Everybody should know the dangers, you know, and the risks. I just think it should be a more level playing field because cannabis has gotten a bad rap. And when we have carnival or Christmas or funeral or anything, alcohol sparking a birthday, you go to a 2-year-old's birthday party.
And it's alcohol. The 2-year-old themselves cannot drink, eh?
But
alcohol for
all the parents, rum like, you know, alcohol like,
Yeah.
And this is our culture, so I'm not asking people to change their culture.
Even when I say to people that I don't drink, they're like, is something wrong with you? Are you on medication? Like, I choose not to. I can if I want to. I choose not to.
You're right.
I don't need to. I don't see a reason to. But it's people always like, what? Why are you doing that? Like, no. I was out to pizza on Saturday with my goddaughters, and I was even surprised that the place sold alcohol. And one of the persons I was there with us, there was a few of us, so a few kids, a few parents, and I'm the godmother, and I'm there. So, and somebody offered to buy drinks. I was like, I'm fine, I'm drinking water. And they still brought me a Strongbow. Yeah, they still brought me one. I was like, but I said I'm not drinking. You can drink a Strongbow. And then next time I'm bringing a whole case of Strongbow and you better drink. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm going to go to the water and feed the fishes.
Yeah.
I told them, I was like, why are you expecting me to drink? I told you I'm not going to drink.
And that's it, you know, nobody forces you to smoke weed, you know. But
It's a choice.
take a drink now, man, you know, that's something that, and they're upset if you say no. That's why I buy you a drink and you're telling me no?
Or if you ask for something non-alcoholic, they vex.
No, I'm not buying
a malt is cheaper than a Strongbow, but if you ask for a malt, they're giving you the evil eye. Like, I'm not even bothering to buy that for you.
And people tell me that already.
Yeah, I've been told that.
Because there's a drink I offer you, I ain't buying a malt.
Yeah, it happens to me all the time.
But it's a culture, so, you know, us ganja people, don't look at us that way, oh gosh, but, you know, we've been demonized. They have two ladies in the market. I wonder if they still lighting black candle for me. They tell me that straight. You want to mash up our country, lighting black candle. I say, why you all doing that? I'm a nice guy. I don't, you know, I'm,
Oh my
no,
gosh.
you evil.
I apologize on behalf of my people.
No, I saw them about 2 years after that. And I went up to them and I say, you all still lighted black candle for me? And I had a nice conversation with them. I'm not taking anything like that seriously. If you're all doing that, that's your business. Your business.
I'm sorry, I can't be bothered.
I'm good.
I agree with you. You did say that if you're indulging in these things, either cannabis or alcohol, whichever is your poison, whichever you choose your poison. But I think that maybe there needs to be a very rigid, I don't want to use rigid, it might sound bad, but a rigid educational program in terms of who should use it, when should you use it, what should you use, what should you not do, what age should you start, should you do it if you have a history of asthma, if you have a history of mental health in your family. These are the type of things. Is the Cannabis Task Force going to be tackling that sort of an educational program? Yes,
definitely. It was, I mean, I personally spoke to Mr. Pear about 3 weeks after the election win. He brought me in and he said, hey, listen, this is the plan. And so I realized that they were serious, that they were going to decriminalize, and I told the PM, well, you have to say something, you have to go out there and explain to people, okay, now that we've decriminalized, it doesn't mean go and smoke everywhere and stuff. And he did mention it to the people, you know, but after that, nothing else happened. Mm-hmm. So we really need to develop a curriculum, content, and really get out there so that everybody knows, you know, exactly what is going on. I believe in transparency. are not holding back anything. Let everybody know everything, and then they
Let
will.
them make the decision themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't subscribe to any particular, okay, go watch this, go listen to this, go do this. I always feel like let everybody do what they have to do for themselves. But I happen to be a big fan of TV. I grew up, we had our own video store back when that was a thing. And I really grew up into that visual. Like, I need to see it, I need to be, I'm almost glued to the screen, that kind of thing. So I feel like a lot of the shows that show you a little bit of the cannabis industry in some form is always is best for me. That's the best way to go for me. So I always feel like any educational program needs to have some sort of a visual aid, right? So like Netflix, you can go into Netflix, those of you that have Netflix subscriptions, go into Netflix and type cannabis into the search engine. There are cooking shows. There's a comedy show called Disjointed where they talk about the dispensary and they talk a little bit about cultivation, and it's a whole comedy. You might not see the seriousness of certain topics in it right away, and they deal a little bit of the legalization of it. They deal a little bit in the legal aspect of it. Like there's a part where somebody gets arrested for smoking in a national park. So that sort of thing where you have to understand, okay, there's things you can do, there's things you should not do, there's things that you have a gray area. And I feel like when you do it in these little ways, and I think like we have enough influencers in our country that if we can get them on board, that we can maybe do enough messaging to get it out there and get the right information out to the public, right? So that they can learn a little something.
Definitely. I think we should use every medium available to us, whether it be social media, TV, GIS, just every medium. But with a concise message, as you say, But then we, after years of meditating on this, they have like your first question, what is cannabis? That's for the general public. But if we're going into schools to try to dissuade young people from early initiation, that particular educational module would be completely different to what you're putting on TV to educate the people.
The general public.
Yeah, or people want to know about the industry and how it's going to develop, how can they be part of it. That's another thing to educate the people about. So we need to develop that content and put it out there.
As you say, an idea just popped into my head as you said about going into the schools and that it has to be a different format. I just had this idea about puppets. Like a Sesame Street type of situation where you have, like there's certain ways that Sesame Street will tell you things. Like when they explain about blind people and when they explain about racism, they do different things certain ways, and the use of the puppets is always like a little way to break into the psyche of the child. I don't know, I think like I might have to try and figure out a way to do a puppet show about cannabis. I'm going to have to
then
think about that.
Reneata, what you'd have to do is deal with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health, because they say they'll have to make sure that the message is something that they find acceptable.
It's not supposed to promote the use of cannabis in no way, shape or form.
Correct.
It's supposed to be strictly educational.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think there are ways. It's just it might take a little bit of a thought process of how to get it through, but I think it's something that's doable.
But you know what happened the other day to me? A lady in her mid-30s came up to me and says, "It's legal now. I've never tried it before. I want to use it. I want to try it. How do I try it? What do I do? And asked me all these questions. So I said, why now? You've lived to this age and you never tried it. Why now? She said, because it was illegal. So now it's legal, I want to try it.
Living the path of a good citizen.
Yeah, she was but now it's legal and she wants to try it. So we have to actually also educate people who never use it and who want to use it on the correct use, how to roll it, how to do this, how to do that. All that education has to come out too, as well. So we at the task force need to develop that content as to who we engage. You said, like, so you need to find puppeteers, you need to find camera people, you need to come up with a musical score, we need to come up with a jingle, need to do so many things.
It's really a lot to do.
Yeah, so they have a whole list of stuff that we have to do, you know. Apart from just the educational program, there's so much other things that we have to do, you know, to get to where we need to be, and where it will be profitable for the country, and the country collects taxes, and people's lives are improved, because there's a certain sector of society that has been forgotten, and this sector is going to be given an opportunity to rise up. And you'd find that once you improve the livelihoods of these people, a lot of social ills start, you know, falling away, because, you know, it's poverty that put a lot of people in stressful situations, and people under stress do you know, crazy stuff. So a lot haven't been to school, smoking weed. Well, you want to come and grow some weed? Obviously, they will get them into the land, and then apart from teaching them how to grow herb, you teach them how to grow everything else. And then we feed the nation, because our food import bill, I hear them yapping about agriculture, but there's certain fundamental, you know, on-farm infrastructure, marketing, financing that needs to take place, and I'm not hearing much about that, you know. And the average age of a farmer in St. Lucia is 60 years old.
Yeah, we don't have that many young farmers.
Why? Because no young man is going to be going to in a banana plantation for $40 and $50 a day, sweating, carrying and stuff.
This Sundays, nothing easy.
Yeah, they're not doing that. But tell them to come and grow herb. They'll grow herb. Or why? And a lot of the guys who are growing herb, because of where they grow herb, they also grow vegetables to eat. Because when you're up in the hills, away from everything, you know, you can't be carrying.
You cannot eat the weed, so you have to figure out
exactly.
what you're going to eat.
So many of these farmers are good agriculturalists, and a lot of guys who growing cannabis are growing it organically, pesticide free. So it's better quality. Their vegetables better than, you know, the average farmer's vegetables, because they're doing it pesticide free. They're growing their cannabis pesticide free.
This brings me to my next question. I know we basically touched a little bit on it, but who exactly will benefit from a dynamic cannabis industry? Who are the types of people we're expecting to benefit? I know you're saying like the persons who are currently more on the poverty line, for certain, they will definitely benefit. Farmers definitely benefit. The economy definitely will benefit. But I feel like there is maybe some sort of unknown benefit that we're not seeing. Probably it's not staring us in the face.
Well, I believe there's a big potential for value added. For value added meaning, okay, there's a tourism industry. That's going to be huge.
You say that, and I remember seeing something about an Airbnb which was located on a cannabis farm. And I think the guest took a picture of what was like, you know, you usually have a little welcome package in the room, and the welcome package was different samples of the weed that was available. And I saw that on social media.
And we can do it just the same. The cruise ships, you know, the coasters, you have a flyer on the cruise ship, visit a cannabis farm, authentic Rastaman. Those buses would be filled to know that you drive up in the hills, you come on a Rastaman's farm, you eat with a wooden spoon, out of a clay yaba, you know, on a coal fire, you're in a ganja plantation. So even though the Rastaman doesn't have a crop selling at the time, he still has a source of income. The cannabis grower still has a source of income. There's so many restaurants now in the United States have infused dishes.
Yes,
I've spoken to so many local chefs here, and they're so close-minded about that, you know, but we need to move into that space.
Yeah, and when you look at it, because I'm watching this show on Netflix called Cooked with Cannabis, and they infuse butter, oil. It's usually a fat base, right? That they infuse. And when they always ask them how much THC is in this. It's like 1 milligram, 2 milligrams.
Yeah.
It's like it's nothing. It's just this little buzz in the food, but they talk about the flavor, the enhanced taste that it gives some of the different types of dishes. And when you hear them speak, you're like, we're talking about weed. The way they speak about it and the passion they have for it is like, I wish everybody could speak like that about food. And it's something so easy to do. They talk about how easy it is if you're really interested in doing it. So it's like, I would go to a cooking class. I would pay for a cooking class.
They have all that. And I mean, you said who else would benefit? Okay, there's a cottage industry, right? So this is what the cottage industry could be. We import bales of hemp fabric and people make hemp clothes. One of the things that we had came up an idea was a fashion industry. So we bring in hemp material because in 1997 when we were doing the research for the hemp project, we initially thought we'd use fiber and make garments. But when we did the investigation, if you had to bring a loom to change hemp fiber into hemp fabric, we don't have the land to feed that loom 365 days a year. So the experts at the time said, no, that makes no sense to do it in the Caribbean. That's when we thought, okay, well, we'll grow the hemp for the seeds to press the oil to do the body care industry. But it doesn't stop us from importing hemp fabric, coming up with designs, men, women, kids, and making garments, top quality. We had Belle Fashions in Denry that were making Victoria's Secret lingerie. That's top of the line lingerie.
That's what Graffiti is doing now. Graffiti is from that same set of people.
Right, okay. So we have talented young women here, single mothers who don't have an opportunity to go out, take a transport because they have kids at home. We could have single mothers, give them a pattern and pay them by the piece. So if, say it's a gilet they're making, they do the front of the gilet and you give them a paper pattern and they do the cutout and they do all the stuff. Every Friday the fashion truck passes around, collects it, does quality control, pays the woman, the lady for her thing. You take it to a central place where the whole gilet is assembled and the jeans and the shirts and everything are assembled. So we can have a really top class fashion industry. We have beautiful models, we have a Caribbean flavor, we have real artistic people. We could come up with a fashion line to rival Lee, Wrangler, Levi's. That's where we have to shoot. So that is all possible. Crochet, macrame, knitting with hemp yarn. So you could make hats out of hemp.
Because the crochet, the amount of things you can do with crochet is already extensive. So if you're using hemp, and would the hemp be cheaper than crochet thread, the regular crochet thread?
If we make it here. But if we import it, it's relatively cheap. It's not expensive because hemp is a...
No, but we already import the crochet thread. We might as well.
Exactly. So now that it's hemp and we get a label, so our guests come and they buy whatever, but it has St. Lucia hemp on it. You know, so there's the fashion industry. Then the hemp oil itself is a high in omega-3
fatty acids.
Very nutritious oil. So instead of killing cod and drinking cod liver oil, we could actually supplement hemp oil for cod liver oil. So it will be good as a nutritious oil. Also too, that same oil, you put another label on it and it's a cooking oil. So instead of coconut oil, so you have the cold press oil now. Those seeds too. If you toast hemp seeds, you get toasted hemp seeds and it's a munch. It's a natural munch. You could eat it. You know, have salted, toasted hemp seeds. And I could eat a whole bag of it like that. It's so moreish. They have the one that is shelled, and you could use that in smoothies. So we could create all these products as well. I even came up with a banana, 2 dried bananas covered with local chocolate, smothered in hemp seeds, and then just glue the hemp seeds on just a light thing of milk chocolate on top. So when you bite it, it's chewy in the middle, crunchy on the outside, all local stuff. So we could get into confectionery. We could get into restaurants, cooking with cannabis. There's so many things that can be done with it. It's up to the people who embrace it. Right now, I mean, I make oil. I make the medicinal oil for anxiety and stuff like that. They have a lot of other people making it. They have people making gummies. They have people doing so many things right now in St. Lucia. St. Lucians are really innovative people.
Yes.
It's all under the radar now. And everybody's afraid to move. But when we do open the gates, I would like to see us, so people in Nepal, people in India, people in Hong Kong, people in Russia, when they hear about cannabis, they think about one place, St. Lucia. Not Jamaica, not anywhere else, St. Lucia. You want to go for a cannabis holiday, you want to experience that, go there. Because they have clothes, food, good herb, everything there. Wonderful beaches, lovely hotels to go to. So we be the epicenter of cannabis in the world. And that would bring so much money to St. Lucia and spread it around the people who haven't had the ability to play with that kind of money.
Okay. We're a little short on time. I didn't even realize I'm enjoying the conversation so much. Didn't even realize we were getting so close to 9 o'clock. But I want to ask, just to make sure I have enough time to ask this question, do you have any concerns as it regards the cannabis industry, especially within St. Lucia? Is there anything that you think we should look out for, any dangers we should be ready to tackle?
Okay, well, what I would say is one of the biggest concerns for me right now is that after looking at Jamaica and St. Vincent and Antigua, they haven't been able to export cannabis. So right now, listeners who are thinking about getting into growing cannabis to sell ganja, hold off on that right now. Because what we have certain people that if the government engages them, certain investors, they would be looking for markets in the EU for our cannabis, raw cannabis, bud, and value-added products. That we're not there yet. What has happened to St. Vincent? They went and grew endless cannabis, and now they have a glut. We don't want that to happen here. So let's just keep it at this level for now until we get that market, that international market. Now, one of the other investors, if we engage this other investor, is trying to make a pharmaceutical product to treat irritable bowel syndrome. And they'll use CBD. It's the main ingredient, CBD cannabis oil. That's extracted from the whole plant. And they add and do whatever, and they come up with their pharmaceutical. Willing to build a pharmaceutical facility here so that we could export this product to the rest of the world. If that, and that is very possible at this point in time, if we are growing for this particular pharmaceutical plant, then we could grow en masse, because then we'll have an industrial size extraction machine. So we could grow acres of that, turn it into CBD oil, put it in drums, and the pharmaceutical company purchases that and turns it into a pharmaceutical. So that's one of the avenues that we may be able to grow a lot of cannabis for initially. But we want to also grow nice high grade, well packaged, barcode, pass all the Bureau of Standards regulations, so we could export a 40-foot container of cannabis to the EU every week, just like we used to do bananas with all our products and make good money like that. We need that export market if we're going to really get big at it.
We definitely need to get back into some green gold opportunities.
Yes.
So I definitely hope that this can be the future within St. Lucia, the future of the cannabis industry. And I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen in terms of the symposium and any other PR and educational programs that's going to be rolling out. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how all of that turns out for us here in St. Lucia and with the Cannabis Task Force. I understand that you're going to be on Zafenu tomorrow morning with
Yes.
Jai Manyadi. What time will you be on?
I believe it's from just after 7. Mr. Vern Emmanuel will be in studio. I will be doing it from the phone here in Soufrière.
Okay.
So I'll just be on audio from Soufrière, but we'll be with Yadi and Jain.
Okay, great. So I'm definitely encouraging all our listeners to tune into Zafenu tomorrow morning from about 7 a.m. so that you can get as much more information, and hopefully you'll get a lot more of the public interaction that we did not really get tonight. But I'm hoping that you'll get more of that tomorrow so that we can really, I want the interest to be there so that we can get the public invested as much as possible within what we're trying to do with the cannabis industry. So once again, I want to thank you, Mr. DeCaires, for joining me here on Let's Connect this evening on 88.5 Soufrière FM. I'm bigging up my former station. So I'm sorry about that. So once again, this has been Let's Connect, and thank you so very much. If there's anything you want to say before we leave.
The only thing is that, as a ganja smoker for so many years, and I see the young guys, I would just ask the young dudes to, just kind of hold it down and don't smoke in public. They have but going around in public is going to be frowned upon when the legalization comes through, and there will be smoking areas. So just try and abide by the rules so that, we don't mess up the vibe. Because next thing they legalize it and all the naysayers see fellas smoking all over the place, and they say, you see, I told you that would happen. So we don't need any heat up on us. So just check where you're all smoking.
All right, awesome. Thank you so very much. This has been Let's Connect on 88.5 Soufrière FM. Join us next week Tuesday at 8 p.m. 88.5 Soufrière FM presents Let's Connect every Tuesday from 5:30 p.m. with your host Reneata Dusauzay. Also live on Facebook. Be sure to tune in as we present you with updates on local activities, events, businesses, initiatives, and upcoming opportunities for all. Let's Connect every Tuesday right here on Soufrière FM and online. Don't miss it.